All right, welcome back to Bluebird Territory presented by Miller Lite. We got everything you could want in a baseball game. A lot of runs, some good pitching for at least a little bit, some controversy, some good plays in the infield and the outfield, and a Blue Jays win. They won a series. They beat the Baltimore Orioles in dramatic fashion, coming back. I think they were down 4-0. We'll get into that. We'll get into the controversy. We'll get into the big performances from Brandon Valenzuela and Ernie Clement today and also over the last couple of weeks for both those guys. But first, I promised you guys and all the listeners some journalism, so that's going to be our cold open. I got to the bottom of what the guys with the Buffalo Bisons were eating over the last couple of days. We were talking about how Dylan Cease, Max Scherzer, and Shane Bieber were down there on rehab starts. I sent some texts. I asked around. Steaks for 2 of the nights and lobster rolls for the other, as well as, and I quote, plenty of desserts. So we expected there to be some good spreads, and it sounds like the guys in Worcester got a good spread in AAA. So you're welcome to the people of this
Heaven. Nothing better.
Better
Honestly,
than I was
nothing
eating.
better.
That's for sure. I will say
Yeah.
though, shout out Atlanta media meal, best I've ever had. They had a prime rib
Wow.
and lobster mac and cheese. The one night I was there, I'm like, it was incredible food. So I'm not one to be complaining right now.
That doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Better than New York, Mitch.
This one specific meal, yes, but I think it's just like the consistency of New York. It's like you're always going to get like a solid A meal. This just I think happened to be one A plus meal in Atlanta. I don't know if they're able to do that on a consistent basis.
How's your press box?
Oh, actually, I did not like it. It's like 500 feet in the air. You feel like so disengaged from the game. It's like New Texas as well as like you're way up there. You're so far from the baseball game. It's like I feel like I'm watching it on TV. Basically, it's like Baltimore, Tampa. You're like right in on the action. Anaheim, like I almost got hit, almost caught a foul ball one time. You're like right down there. So I much prefer being closer. And I think Brandon Valenzuela much prefers being on the big league roster. We're going to get to him, but first, we're going to kick it to Kevin to talk about Ernie Clement, and we're going to do that on the other side of this quick break. I'm on the run and on the road all the time during baseball season. I'm going to different road ballparks and watching games all over. Very rarely do I get to just watch a game on my couch with my buddies, cracking some ice cold Miller Lites. That's the dream. Miller Lite is the official beer of baseball in Canada. Just 90 calories in a 355 milliliter can. Ice cold, great taste, really hits during baseball season. Why not go grab some Miller Lites today? Because your game time is Miller time. Please celebrate responsibly. Must be legal drinking age. All right, Kevin. Ernie, obviously a big part of today's game with his base running, but the guy's like arguably been the best hitter on the Jays for the last couple of weeks. Looking at the All-Star ballot, second base, not necessarily a strong position, and Ernie like leading the league in doubles and playing pretty good defense, a lot better defense. I think he's got a real chance to be an American League All-Star. What are you liking from the Blue Jays second baseman these days?
Well, first of all, I mean, he's not the best player on the team, but he is playing the best. You know, it's not his team, but he is the best player on the team. He's honestly the most valuable player on the team right now, too. But if you ask any manager, he's a manager's dream. He shows up every day. He competes. You know what you're going to get from him every day. He's got the ability to play multiple positions in the infield and play them all well. You know, what we saw from him yesterday is he can beat you with the bat. You know, if you hang a breaking ball, he can hit a 3-run home run. You know, he hit the triple to right field. He has the ability to hit really good pitching. He can hit pitches out of the zone. He gets rallies started. You know, and then yesterday's game too, you saw the two outstanding defensive plays. One in the 8th inning, which saved a run, and then one in the 9th inning, which, by the way, he makes look really easy. But getting into what he did today's game, you know, talking about being able to change the game with base running, and it's not always the base running, stealing a base or going first and third, but it's the baseball IQ that Ernie brings in. He has an understanding of what the rule is. He knew in that situation there's 3 different things you can do. One, which is the option I don't recommend, you just run into a tag and they get a double play. 2, you kind of hang back and you allow the run to score, you stay in a rundown, you try to get out of it. More than likely, it's going to be a double play. But in that scenario, the run scores. Or you have the third option, which is the highest IQ option, understanding the rules that when that ball is hit as a base runner, you establish your own base path, meaning he can deviate all the way into the outfield grass if that's what he chooses. Where the rule gets a little bit fishy, and we'll get into it a little bit later with what the umpire said, is once a tag is established or tried to be applied, you now then only have 3 feet in any direction to avoid that tag. But he was able to do it today in a play that's not going to show up in the box score. And I think when you think Ernie Clement, minus the fact that he's probably going to be the American League representative for second baseman in the All-Star game, whether the fans vote him in or not vote him in, to me he's a slam dunk at this point. When you think about him, minus the production that he's putting this year, these are the things that you think about, the things that don't show up in the box score every day, the intangibles that he brings, the competitiveness, the understanding of the rules, the grittiness that he brings. And it's crazy to think that not too long ago, this player was DFA'd. He came to Toronto as a fairly unknown player. And not only has he turned himself into a fan favorite, but he's turned himself into who I consider probably the Blue Jays' most valuable player. And I'm very, very happy that John Schneider finally moved him up in the order. I know he had kind of bounced around in that 2-hole, led off a couple times, with some injuries, but is he your prototypical 5-hitter in the major league lineup? Probably not. But does he just know how to get the job done? Absolutely. I would even go as far to say that with Vladdy's kind of struggles of where he's at and the inconsistency, I would go as far as I would bat him third right now. If you're able to get guys on, who would you rather have up right now, Vladdy or Ernie Clement? And it's not to say that Ernie's a better player than Vladdy. It's just that's the level of production he's coming to the table with every night.
Yeah, and to me, KP, to your point, it's one of those things where the story it's just keeps getting better and better for him. A guy that was DFA'd, and I think Mark DeRosa was on record saying you need an Ernie Clement, and that's why he represented Team USA in the World Baseball Classic. They just know he's that type of ball player that understands high baseball IQ, and when you have that intelligence, you're thinking a step ahead. Man, those guys are tough to beat regardless of the situation, and that's who Ernie Clement is. He is the heartbeat of this team. He really is. I mean, we talk a lot about Vladdy and him being the face of the franchise. Of course he is. Nobody's going to take that away from Vladdy. But right now, the heartbeat of this team and the guy that keeps it going is Ernie Clement. And Mitch, I mean, I saw your tweet about him. Once they figure out who they are as a team, I feel like right now this team does not have an identity, and they're on record saying that we once we figure it out, I think this team has a chance to be better than last year. That's him saying that. So obviously this team is still going through it as far as who they are as a team. They really haven't had a consistent lineup. They've had all those injuries. We've talked a lot about that. That's no excuse, for where they're at right now, because other guys it has opened up the doors for other guys to step up and do their thing. But right now, this team is still going through it. They're still trying to figure out who they are as a team. And again, we've been on record of saying this. They're going to get the guys back, and once they get these guys back, this team is going to look completely different from the pitching staff to the lineup, and it's an exciting time. Again, I think we're beating a dead horse because the fans are still waiting. But at the end of the day, when you hear Ernie Clement say this team has a chance to be better than last year, I mean, that should tell you something. Nobody else knows what it's like to be in that clubhouse other than those guys. And we can sit here, we can speculate, we can sit here and talk about, oh, they might be this, they might be that, but nobody knows other than those guys in that clubhouse, and they know what they have in that clubhouse, and they know that when they finally get healthy, they have a chance to run the table again, and rightfully so. They should think like that. And I think Ernie Clement type of player wouldn't let this team just go down the hole. That he's going to be making sure that the ship is being steered the right way. And this is a team that still hasn't gotten hot from their their franchise players. So once everything starts coming together, I'm really excited for this team to get finally healthy from the pitching side and from the offensive side.
Yeah, I feel like it was inevitable George was going to take a step back after last year. Just the age he's at, the fact that he was an MVP vote getter, it was just kind of a question of how much. And if you have Vladdy kind of going through the clear struggles he's going through, it was hard to look around the lineup and be like, okay, who is going to get better? Like Kirk put up such a good last year. Barger put up such a good last year. It was going to be hard to expect people to get better. Ernie's the one dude who has like found a new gear. And well, other guys are struggling, other guys are hurt. I thought like league average hitter was the ceiling for Ernie. He can get hot, like he can get really really hot. He's been a streaky hitter. Great timing to do that in October, but he's showing more power than he has ever has before. He still has the consistency in contact. He's playing a different position. He's been asked to play a different position and has had his struggles, but is looking a lot better lately. It's what the Jays needed was to figure out different other guys who could help step up. I didn't necessarily think it was a reasonable ask to ask Ernie to do that, but he is doing it. And another guy who I think we can probably put this to rest. Like, I don't know how the Jays are going to send down Brandon Valenzuela. I'm just, this isn't like completely on the record, but I'm pretty confident they're not going to send him down at this point. And how can you? Ricky, you've like since spring training beaten the drum for this guy, and I don't think we thought he would get up to the big leagues this fast. I don't think we thought he would be second on the team in home runs on June 7th, but
That's crazy.
yeah, it truly crazy. 7 home runs. It's only Okamoto who has more than that. If I told you Okamoto and Valenzuela were leading the team in home runs in June back in spring training, I don't know what we would have said. But what is he doing anything different lately? Like, what is continuing to impress you about this guy?
Man, it's not easy to come up as a rookie and own a staff, right? I mean, there's a lot of learning curve, and you can tell early on there was a lot of learning mistakes that he made. But I think the most impressive about Brandon Valenzuela is how much comfortable he's got and how great he looks. You see that play today, man. There was no hesitation on that bunt. He took his mask off, boom. He knew where he was going right away, get the lead runner. And you're just seeing him get a feel for the big leagues. And that's what it is when you're a young guy. You're trying to get a feel. You're trying to fit into a team that established a certain identity last season. And you come into this team, you're supposed to, take over the reins over, an all-star catcher. And to me, it's the way he's handled the staff, how much he's better he's gotten at the plate. I mean, his swings, I mean, it was his weekend. I have a weekend this week. And Brandon Valenzuela, yesterday he goes 3 for 3. Today he has another big hit. So to me, again, it's one of those things where he's calm. You can tell he comes to the ballpark, he does his homework, and he wants to get better. I mean, that dude is a specimen. When you watch him in a uniform, you're just like, man, this dude has it all together. He's one of those guys. I think KP would agree with this. Like when you look at him, you're like, man, like that dude just has the body, the physique for a big league catcher. He's got that big league body. He's a big target,
He
and it's
reminds me
been
of Matt
impressive.
Wieters. I don't know if that's like a crazy
Yes,
take. It's very similar build to
yeah,
Wieters.
I think he might be a little bit more muscular than Matt Wieters.
Fair.
um, but it just the game has definitely slowed down for him. You can just tell he's starting to come into his own again. I think this early when he first got called up, it's like maybe he was trying to be someone he wasn't. Trying to maybe be a savior, trying to maybe do different things, get off his game. And right now, you just see a comfortable guy that's gotten more and more comfortable as the games goes on. And I feel like the team has done a pretty good job early on. Obviously, it was Tyler Heineman, but they've done a pretty good job of just continue to guide him and continue to give him the reins of like, all right, this is your rotation, this is your squad. Go out there and lead us from the catching standpoint. And I just can't envision myself him getting sent down right now. I think he's earned that. I think the Padres are probably regretting that trade. They could sure as heck use him on in that team, a team that's struggling right now. But Brandon Valenzuela has just like I said, I think when a young kid comes up, you just expect these guys to keep getting better and better and better. And he's just learned as he's gone along. He's learned from his mistakes, and he's coming into his own as a hitter too. I think early on he was a little bit overmatched to at the plate, but I think he's made the right adjustments. Now he's starting that sweet lefty swing. I mean, it's powerful, man. When he gets a hold of that ball, it goes. So good for him, and hopefully he continues to get better. I mean, once Alejandro Kirk comes back, that'll be a pretty good tandem right there to have.
I mean, I agree with everything Ricky said, but for me, Mitch, I don't know if you saw this, Ricky. I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a situation in the first game with Savage on the mound, big pitch, 3-2, and behind the plate, he told him to take a deep breath. He told him where he wanted the location. Like that is graduating from being a young catcher. And even though Trey is still I mean, we don't even look at Trey as like a young guy because of everything he did last year, right? He's a guy beyond his years, more mature, and that could be a conversation for another day. Like Trey is still a young kid in this game who thrusted into the biggest moment and answered the bell, but there is going to be a learning curve for him too, much like there is for all young players. But the fact that he had the confidence in and presence behind the plate to tell a guy, take a deep breath. This is where we want the pitch. Me and you, like that's command of a pitching staff right there. And,
Mhm.
the adjustments that he's made offensively, clearly night and day. Like he came up, he looked like your typical prospect catcher coming up to the big leagues, a little bit overmatched, but give him a ton of credit. Give the Blue Jays hitting department a ton of credit. They made adjustments, and as a player who comes in with a lot of anticipation, a lot of prospect status, you have to give those guys credit to have a short sample size where you fail, and then they feel like, hey, these are the adjustments that you need to make. It takes a man to be like, you know what, they're trying to help me. I want to make those adjustments. I want these things to work, and clearly they've worked. He looks like a completely different player from the offensive standpoint, and I think even Caleb talked about it on the broadcast today. The home run he hit today was a changeup. And the guy on the mound has a very good changeup, and he's been a very good pitcher, very good relief pitcher for the Orioles this year. To me, he was sitting on that pitch. And that talks about like the maturity of understanding how I'm going to get pitched, what this
Mhm.
guy likes to go to. Because that wasn't a swing where, hey, I'm on the fastball. I saw the changeup. Typically, there's going to be a shift of the body, catch it a little bit out in front. No, he hit that pitch like it was batting practice. And you know what's coming in batting practice. So that just kind of speaks to the maturity. And just to echo your guys' both point, there's no way in the world this guy is getting sent down. I did hear Alex Anthopoulos talk about this in Atlanta, and it makes me think about a guy like Valenzuela too. He talked about their young prospect, Fuentes, who could be a starter, but he's kind of has this apprenticeship in the bullpen right now. He gets a chance to sit with all those guys in the bullpen, and he's like, could he be starting in the minor league? Sure, but he's getting invaluable information by sitting in the bullpen, being around the game, listening to these guys in the bullpen. He's got two of the best relievers in baseball in the bullpen. He's talking pitching all the time. Valenzuela is not only going to get that when Alejandro Kirk comes back, they're going to get a chance to sit down and game plan for all these games. He's going to get to ask Kirk questions when he's catching or when he's sitting on the bench. Hey, why did you call that? Why did you do that? Like, there is no reason. He's graduated, in my opinion, from needing at bats in the minor leagues. This is about him becoming the best version of himself in the major league, being around guys like Max Scherzer and when Bieber comes back and the Kevin Gosmans in the world, not to mention an Alejandro Kirk. So he's certainly, I think, changed not only our minds of what they're going to do, but I think if you would ask maybe a couple months ago kind of what the plan might be when Alejandro comes back, I think we're going to find out. But I think all the people that make those decisions are like, okay, we had a plan, and then this guy showed up and did this. So I think that plan is forever changing.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about when you come up earning the right to have a big league job. He's earned that right. Honestly, I mean, if he came up and he wasn't getting the job done, then you're like, okay, this guy's overmatched. It's an easy decision for us. But we talked about the Yohendrick Pinangos of the world, Nathan Lucas last year, and Brandon Valenzuela right now. You have to earn the right to play, and when you give somebody a job and say, hey, go out and get it, shows what you can do, and you earn it, you've earned every right to be part of that 25-man roster. And Brandon Valenzuela has definitely done that.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things, like I asked John Schneider straight up the other day, like you could send him down and say he needs more bats in AAA, but like Kirk is under contract for a bunch more years. He's one of the best catchers in baseball. Realistically, long term, this guy is your backup. How does a young guy learn how to be a backup and play 2 times a week, 3 times a week? He said you can only do that at the big leagues. And so I think you're right, Kevin. I think he has graduated the we need to season this guy in AAA. It's time to learn how to be a backup in the big leagues. It's great. You've proven you can be a starter. Now learn how to be a
On
backup
top
too.
of that, I think this year, I don't think you're going to see Alejandro Kirk catching the lion's share of the games, potentially in the regular season. You get to the postseason, maybe that's a different story. But I think Valenzuela has also opened the door to potentially have Kirk come back a little bit sooner, knowing he doesn't have to catch 5 out of 7. They could maybe
Hmm.
be 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off. And then you talked about the idea of him being a backup. And correct me if I'm wrong, is Springer's deal up at the end of this year, Mitch?
It is correct.
So do we potentially see a scenario where that maybe this is the end of Springer being the DH? Do we see a scenario where, much like Baltimore, they're sharing time between catching and DHing, with you know between their two catchers? Is this a scenario where they don't maybe have to have a quote unquote backup catcher, but both of these guys are getting regular at bats in the near future?
If Valenzuela's got an 840 OPS, yeah, you're figuring out a way to get that bat. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if he keeps hitting like this if we have that discussion on like June 17th about like, hey, Springer's still struggling a little against right-handed pitching. Maybe Brandon Valenzuela's DHing, or maybe Kirk's DHing today and Valenzuela's catching. Like, it's you guys are right. The players ultimately, in an ideal world, determine what the lineup is. Like, because it's if you're hitting, you're going to be in. If you're not hitting, maybe we'll find someone else. I do think on the like learning how to be a backup part, I agree, Kevin, that they'll probably at the very least in the first month kind of ease in, do maybe more of a 60-40 Kirk split. I also think there's an advantage for Valenzuela being in the big leagues to learn this because the Jays have a catching coach now in a way that they really didn't since it was John Schneider's job like 5 years ago. The fact that he can sit down with Butera and just like go over stuff means like he's gonna be learning. He's not just sitting on the bench, which I think is super valuable for him. I think we're in consensus on this one, guys. Maybe
And
we'll have to hop back on and decide, but I think we got a consensus.
and this is a little small thing, but there's no language barrier between Valenzuela and Kirk. They both speak perfect Spanish. They're both from Mexico, so I think that helps them maybe communicate a little bit better. So sometimes stuff that gets maybe lost in transition before somebody who barely speaks the language and somebody who speaks English. So that's another thing where it might help. It might help Valenzuela, like learning from Kirk. Kirk can maybe say it in a different way that he understands it. I don't know, something like that. But I think both of them being Spanish speakers and being in the same position definitely helps both of them and helps
Yeah, and
a
the
young
and the
Valenzuela.
fact that and the fact that Kirk's under contract and signed his deal, like there's not this idea of he's trying to take my job. Like there's security there too. So
Mhm.
what we're saying is this is the perfect marriage for eternity.
For real.
These
Yeah.
two, they both from Mexico. They speak the same language. They're not competing against each other. The fact that Valenzuela is a switch hitter, like everything is shaking out for this to be a long term, fruitful relationship.
And this is no knock on Tyler Heineman either, man. I mean, he's been a good backup for the Toronto Blue Jays, and there's no knock on him, but Brandon Valenzuela has definitely outplayed him up to this point.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I think in the ideal world, uh, Heineman, the Jays would love Heineman to clear waivers, keep him in the org, because catching injuries happen all the time, and if
Hmm.
someone else gets hurt, he'd be right back up here. All right, let's do everyone's favorite topic, umpire talk. This is okay. So just put Kevin talked about it a bit off the top, but for everyone, for context, Ernie Clement was running from first to second on a Valenzuela ground ball. Ernie kind of veers a bit to the right as Gunnar Henderson fields a ball. Henderson kind of feigns a tag at him. Ernie goes around him. The Orioles, every single Baltimore Oriole thought it should have been a double play. He obviously was not tagged, was called safe at second base. After the game, Nick Lentz and Hunter Wendelspat met with the pool reporter. Listening to the audio of this pool reporter back and forth has been the highlight of my week, maybe month. I have like here. I think I have one of the quotes. I'll pull it up. This is Wendelstad. He said, "It's actually this is what Ernie did. It's actually a very gentlemanly thing to do. He was getting out of the way to allow the infielder to make a play towards first base." On another question, the umps were asked what they thought Gunnar Henderson could have done differently, and Lentz said, "I'm not gonna like tell anyone how to play shortstop." And then Wendelstad said something along the lines, "It's like if I could play shortstop, I would be out there right now." It's just like, obviously, I don't think anyone, or at least I don't think Orioles fans, are satisfied with the back and forth like that. But for me, highly entertaining. Kevin, you talked about the play on the broadcast a little. Do you have any larger thoughts on that, or thoughts on the maybe the pool reporter back
Well,
and forth with
I didn't
umpires?
I didn't see these secondary quotes that you brought up. I did see where one of the two umpires said that the reason they made the call is they said that Gunner was still in the act of fielding the ball. And to be honest with you, I like to consider myself a little bit of a Jays homer. When I'm in town, when I'm watching at home, I'm rooting for them to win. But in real time, watching that play, and honestly, having an understanding of the rule too, I still think they got the play wrong. And I think the Blue Jays caught a little bit of a break there. I think the Orioles have every right to be upset about what happened. Um, and what makes things worse, and we talked about this before we got on, is as a player, you have a responsibility. And we talk about Jeff Hoffman and his struggles. To his credit, he stands there, takes the noise, answers the questions, gives you thoughtful, uh, educational, intellectual answers. He answers all the questions, and they're not always answers, easy questions to answer. I do feel like an umpire, and they hardly ever have plays like this where a reporter is going to go down and ask them questions about it. It's not kind of in the nature of the sport. But when certain plays do happen that are controversial, that a reporter feels the need to set the scene or set the thing straight, I would expect professional answers. Not It's not time for joking around and making kind of a mockery of it, because I think what they don't fully understand is, yes, it cost the Orioles potentially losing a game, but there was a starting pitcher on the mound that was throwing really well, and he potentially gets out of that inning, giving up 2 runs, 6 innings pitched, gets a chance to win a game. Instead, he gets tagged for 4 runs, a no decision. The bullpen usage for the team is different. Like, all those little things potentially could lead up to a point of, hey, we had to use an extra bullpen arm today. It's going to cost someone their job. So I do feel like there should be a level of professionalism that umpires do need to answer the question. Um, and if they don't necessarily have the right answer, at least be professional about it.
Yeah. Well, what it what is the rule? What did they get it right? They get it wrong? What really technically?
Okay,
I
so
was like,
there's some gray area in there,
because he
because
didn't go for the tag, right? Supposedly.
I think what Gunner did wrong was he understood, like, he knew what he was supposed to do. He knew that he was going to go for the tag, turn the double play. When Ernie veered way out of the way, he kind of gave a half-ass attempt at a tag. It wasn't like a
Yeah.
full-blown reach, but it was like enough to be like, I know what you're doing. Here's the tag. Typically, in a perfect world, like, they would say, hey, he made a tag attempt. He went way out of the baseline. They call a double play, right? Um, the rule states, as a base runner, you establish your own baseline, which means if I'm the runner at the first base, like Ernie was, when that ball is hit, technically I can run straight to right field, right? I can. The problem is I have to come back to first base or second base. That's why runners don't do it, right? But as you're approaching a defender, once they field that ball, you are entitled 3 feet any direction to avoid the tag.
Okay.
I guess since Ernie kind of deviated early before the ball was fielded, that could be one reason they said that he was in the right to do what he did. That, in conjunction to maybe not a legitimate tag attempt, are reasons. And then we also saw the play later in the game, which ultimately didn't matter because Louis tagged out Holiday in the baseline, but it, the deviation wasn't a whole lot different. And you can understand where the Orioles bench and the manager was upset, and he went out there and potentially just tried to stall Louis from getting in the flow, but also letting his team knows he cares. Like, you have to respect that as a manager. But baseball's always been one of those funny sports where there's definitive rules, and then there's these kind of gray area rules. Much like the strike zone, it was always kind of up to umpires' discretion, and now we've actually defined the strike zone because we can challenge it. So it's one of those plays where, like I said, if you're the umpire crew, you have to answer these questions. Just give us a real explanation. So us as players too, we feel better about it. We know what to do moving forward. Me saying if I could play short, I would tell you how to play shortstop. Like, it's not going to help the cause. Yes, it's funny, but it would be the same. If Mitch, you wanted to get a quote from a player after game, and everything was a joke, and you're like, I have a job to do. Like, I just want to get something down and do my job. So
Yeah. Ideally, you give me the joke and then you also give me a real response. That's the best of both worlds. Then
You
I can explain something and use the quote as the joke. Banger.
you know how many times I had my runners get called out in Little League over that freaking rule? Now I know the rule. Every time they always call, they say, "Oh, he's out of baseline," but I'm like, "No, man, he's creating his own lane." They're like, "What is that?"
you're
But I
right,
had to,
Ricky. You are.
yeah. You got to use this, bring this clip up when you're arguing, being like, "This is big league
Yes.
outfielder Kevin Pillar. Actually, are you going to tell him he's wrong?" Yeah, I hate every like 4 times a year. I gotta open up my PDF version of the MLB rulebook, and it's like my least favorite. You're never in there for a good reason. You're never in there because something fun has happened in a baseball game. So today was one of those games. I forget it's 2901B or something was today's rule. It's very very thick PDF. We got one topic left, fellas, and that is going to be our Bet365 deep dive. Okay, I think we got what we can call a Kevin Pillar special game, or at least a Kevin Pillar potential game. The Jays are facing Chris Sanchez tomorrow, who is arguably the best pitcher in baseball. He's got a 1.4 ERA. He's allowed 1 run in his last 50 innings pitched against Patrick Corbin. We have seen a very similar story to this before. And Corbin beat Paul Skeens. They, as a team, beat Chris Sale the other day. Kevin, we've talked about the Blue Jays' ability to beat aces all year. What do you think they got to do against Chris Sanchez tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off and let everyone know this is my personal opinion. Don't take this for. Don't go bet the house. But if I'm a betting man, I'm betting the house because everything that we've learned about this Blue Jay team this year is one, they're ace killers, and there is no better ace in the game right now. This guy just went, what was it, 50 plus innings without giving up a run, and then the streak ended, and he gave up 1 run in 7 innings. It's not like he gave up his streak and he just like went out and didn't have a good start. He didn't give up like 5 runs, didn't even get out of the second inning. It's like he still went 7 innings and gave up 1 run. Like, okay, he's not immortal, like he's still human a little bit. Like there's a crack in that armor a little bit. But then you pair the fact that they're facing the best pitcher in baseball who hardly gives up any runs. And then you got Patrick Corbin on the mound. Like this is the time you bet the house. From everything we've learned this year, Patrick Corbin is the King Slayer, and the Blue Jays lineup also are the King Slayers. So, like, this is the perfect scenario right now. Patrick Corbin versus Christopher Sanchez. Bet the house.
Hey, I like it too, man. If I plus 155, give me the Blue Jays tomorrow. Honestly, they're at home. They're coming off a good series win. Patrick Corbin has been better than any of us thought. I think if we were sitting here and we say, "Hey, Patrick Corbin's 2-2 with the 3.98," we'd be like, "You're crazy." So obviously Christopher Sanchez is no pushover. He's been about as good as anyone, if not one of the top 2 pitchers in the big league. So it is no easy task, but if anything, the Blue Jays bring it against aces, as you guys mentioned, and it'll be a fun game. The good thing is the Toronto Blue Jays love playing at the Rogers Center. They're at home. They'll have their home crowd. It's always a little bit of a, I think when I was playing there was a little bit of a Philly Blue Jay rivalry. Hopefully that kind of brings up a little bit more what's at stake. Obviously the Phillies were a team that were supposed to be really, really good. They fired their manager, and then all of a sudden they got back on track. Don Mattingly comes and manages against the Toronto Blue Jays. There's a lot of storylines in this one, so I'm excited for this series. For to watch. Honestly, when you're able to watch an ace like Christopher Sanchez from the opposing side, it's fun. It brings a different challenge, and I know I never. KP knows what it's like. Obviously, when you got to face an ace, you just know you got to lock in that day. Not that they don't lock in any other day, but you know that whatever mistake he makes, you got to punish it because he ain't gonna make many, and not with the 1.4 ERA. So it's gonna be a good challenging time for the Toronto Blue Jay lineup. But if anyone's up for it, it's them.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you talk about games 2 and 3. We have a potential Dylan Cease Zach Wheeler matchup, and then we have a
Yeah.
potential Max Scherzer Jesus Luzardo matchup. So If you are into great pitching matchups, and probably none bigger than the Patrick Corbin and Christopher Sanchez, because it just doesn't make sense on paper, but we've seen it before. And I'm sorry I didn't do enough research on this. I'll have to do a little bit more before I go on the air tomorrow. But I would imagine the challenge with Christopher Sanchez versus like the Paul Skeens and the Schlittlers that we've seen him, I would imagine Christopher Sanchez is out of the zone a ton. I think he has the ability to make his changeup look like a strike, but it's out of the zone. So that's going to be the interesting storyline tomorrow. Is they've typically hit aces really well. The Chris Sales, the Paul Skeens are typically in the zone a ton, but I think Christopher Sanchez has a ton of success outside of the zone. I think he has the ability to make that changeup look like a strike, but it's technically not in that box. So if the Blue Jays are going to chase him around the zone, I would say don't bet the house. But everything that we've seen so far, that doesn't make any sense. I figure out the Blue Jays figure out a way to push a couple across. It might only be 2 runs, but Patrick Corbin's not going to give up more than 1 because that's just what we've come to expect when he goes up against the best pitchers in the world.
And
All right.
it's funny you mentioned that. It's funny you mentioned that, KP, because the Boston Red Sox always did a good job of laying off my changeup, always. And I asked John Farrell when he came over, I was like, why were you guys so successful against me when I was successful against other teams? They're like, you know what? I remember sitting in those scouting reports, and the hitters were always like, he has a plus change, but it's not in the zone. It starts in the zone, but it ends out of the zone. And they always did a good job of making me throw my other pitches for strikes. And anytime they see a changeup up in the zone, they just spit on it. So the Blue Jays are able to do that against Christopher Sanchez. And Christopher Sanchez throws a lot harder than me and probably has a way better changeup than me. I'm not comparing myself to him, but those are the little things in scouting reports, I think, that makes offenses successful against pitchers like Christopher Sanchez, aces of the world. They're like, okay, he likes to go to a certain pitch, but if we're able to lay off of it, it's easier said than done. But it can be a successful game plan, and sometimes it can turn into a 2-1 game, 3-1 game, whatever it is. Like KP said, Patrick Corbin has been a good pitcher to have on your side, and this is a team right now that sits 32-34, 7 games out of first place. Nothing's been lost with this team yet.
Definitely. Definitely. I do. This will be my micro prediction. Also, not saying to bet the house on it. I think Yohendrick Penango has a big day against the fellow lefty and Chris Sanchez. The Jays have had a tendency to put some lefties in the lineup against these the same-sided changeup throwers to try to eliminate the changeup. I think Penango might be in there tomorrow, and he's a guy who we haven't seen him chase down nearly as much as his chase zone has been up. So I think he might match up well. Might not even be in the lineup. So you can do what do what you will with that prediction. This has been a good one, fellas. We'll be back to talk about those great pitching matchups against the Phillies on the next episode of Bluebird Territory. Thanks everyone for listening. Please if you've made it this far, please subscribe and keep coming back for more.
If you made it this far, you'll love this next video. Check it out right here. And make sure you've subscribed to Bluebird Territory for more Jays coverage like this multiple times a week.